we started making chairs for Navy ships. And that same basic philosophy is what we're about. One chair was a collaboration between Emiko and Jasper Morrison, something that leveraged all of the things that we are known for, using recycled materials, hand craftsmanship, and making chairs that last. Jasper is a little bit of a nomad. He's always traveling all around the world. He's a very detail-oriented person. He's made the hard industrial aluminum look soft, almost like wood. We employ a 77-step process when we make our chairs. Bending, welding, annealing, heat treating, hand finishing, and anodizing. You end up with a product that will last forever. We try to make things that will have the least impact on the environment. There's thousands of chairs out there, and the world doesn't need more chairs, they just need better chairs.
You can't really design them. They become supernormal through use almost. And so we collected together 200 objects, and we could have collected thousands more. Some of them are by designers, some of them are anonymous, and some of them are incredibly familiar. You can see those scissors with the orange handle. So it's all about familiarity and objects which we use without consideration even, but they're part of our life, and they make an atmosphere without making a fuss about it. I think the kind of explosion of media interest in design recently is having a very negative effect on the design world itself. I think many designers many younger designers seeing this kind of media celebration of design are convinced in a sense that what they see in the magazines is design. I think on the other hand the media are just interested in selling magazines. So the more sensational the product is, the more likely they are to put it on the cover or make a big fuss about it. And I think it's having a very distorting effect on design. And it's quite understandable that as a young designer you need to get known, you need to have your work seen. But I think we need to remember that as designers we are responsible for our environment, and filling it with amazing shapes and forms and surprising expressions of our genius doesn't make a very good atmosphere. And in fact, to me, it's becoming a kind of visual pollution. So supernormal, really, the idea of the exhibition is to make a discussion about it as a sort of gentle reminder that the motivations of design are quite important, and good objects don't always come from just wanting to be noticed. So I hope if any of you go to Milan, you'll be able to see that. Some more views. The ladder actually wasn't chosen, but I think we should get one. So that's just some examples of the kind of objects which we chose. So supernormal objects can also be objects which we're just so used to that we barely notice, like the Bialetti coffee machine or the glass in front of it. We might have used hundreds of times without even thinking about it. But if you actually look at it, you realize that it is actually an incredibly effective and beautiful object. So this is our last picture. And this project was a couple of years ago in Milan, and it's called The Crate. And it came about, I had it in my apartment. I just moved in and there wasn't much furniture then. And I adapted a wine crate, which looks exactly like this, as a bedside table. And I started to use it and found that I could stack up some books in the bottom of it. And it just, for me, it was the perfect solution for a bedside table. And so I made it in all innocence, thinking that it was a nice offering. And it caused a huge amount of trouble, actually. People complained about it and saying that my motivations were cynical and I can't remember what else the problem was, but I don't know, that sort of struck a note with me that there's something very wrong with the design world at the moment if you can't do a simple product like the crate without being criticized. But anyway, that's not a very good note to end with, but thank you.
Jasper Morrison ist einer der einflussreichsten Designer der Gegenwart und wir zeigen in dieser Ausstellung zwei Teile. Zum einen die große Retrospektive, die erste überhaupt zu Jasper Morrison, die sein Werk ab den 1980er Jahren im Fokus hat. Und zum anderen ist er unserer Einladung gefolgt und ist in unsere Archive hinabgestiegen und hat in den Sammlungen des Museums für Gestaltung mit seinen 500.000 Objekten eine ganz persönliche Auswahl getroffen.
Sort of luxurious. Having the choice of the collection, choose what you like, and you have a good collection, so that made it more fun.
Morrison vertritt eine sehr klare Haltung im Design. Er sagt, heute wird oftmals die Form völlig überbewertet. Er steht für ein Design, das für Materialgerechtigkeit steht, für einen Produktionsprozess, der eben industriell möglich ist, aber dennoch historische Referenzen hat. Und ich glaube, es ist extrem wichtig, dass Jasper Morrison mit seiner Arbeit auch als Autor, als Gestalterpersönlichkeit letzten Endes in den Hintergrund tritt. Er sagt, wenn ich ein Produkt entworfen habe, von dem gar niemand mitbekommt, dass da ein Designer am Werk war, dann habe ich einen guten Job gemacht.
That was an extremely exciting project for me because it was the first really industrial project.
So this door handle was produced really in big series.
This was for production and it was with tools and vats full of molten aluminium and polishing machines and anodizing processes.
So this was like your door opener for industrial production in general?
So it was a very, very nice project to get.
Morrison beginnt in den 80er Jahren zu studieren, in einer Zeit, wo die Postmoderne um sich greift, wo dreibeinige Zitronenpressen unser Alltag bereichern. Und er hat sich von Anbeginn gesagt, so will ich nicht arbeiten. Er steht ein für ein anonymes Design, für das Supernormale, für ein Design, das eben auskommt ohne Pathos, ohne Klimbim, ohne auch Knäckebrot-Askese. Selbst auferlegter Minimalismus ist ihm zuwider.
It's not a conscious plan, but I have maybe wine glasses like that several years before and been using them for a long time. I've looked at those and said, well, maybe we could just rework it a bit, make the base a little bigger, try to find the perfect shape.
Zu sehr vielen der Entwürfe, die hier gezeigt werden, von Jasper Morrison selbst, aber eben auch jene im Projekt My Collection, hat Jasper Morrison ein Statement verfasst, was ihn fasziniert, was ihn antreibt, warum er ein Objekt auch ausgewählt hat. Und das gibt diesem Projekt, diesen beiden Projekten eine völlig neue Leseebene, macht es für das Publikum besonders attraktiv zu verstehen, was den Designer Jasper Morrison ausmacht.
Is what took most of the time. We kept doing drawings confidently, thinking that we'd designed a beautiful fork, and we got back prototypes which were just horrible. And it really, I think we did 5 separate prototypes until we got to this result, which is pretty fork, knife and spoon-like. I really was getting more and more interested in this a kind of design maybe that wasn't anymore going to try and surprise anybody, but which would be really enjoyable to live with. Because it seemed to me, looking around my house, that my favorite objects were not so much the sensational ones, but the more discreet ones. And in some cases, I've been using them for many years before realizing how fantastic they were. So things like a chopping board, for example, with a slightly curved edge on all sides, so that it's easier to pick up. And when you wash it, you lean it against the top, and the wood grain doesn't pick up the water because there's such a small area of contact. So noticing things like that after using them for several years, I started to realize that objects, it's an incredibly sophisticated world. And sometimes our attempts as designers are really laughable beside the evolution of certain objects. Many objects look like they look. Many normal objects look like they look because they've been refined over years to do their job. And so this project was really a first attempt at doing something much more normal. And I was really worried about it because I just thought it would go unnoticed and it would probably not be bought. But it was bought and it's very successful. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence to pursue this idea. And I was in the Milan Fair and I saw a stool by a Japanese designer called Naoto Fukasawa, who you probably all know. And it seemed to me that was very much the same, trying to do the same kind of thing. And later that day I was talking to a guy from Muji, and I mentioned these two projects, and he said supernormal. And so when the minute he said supernormal, to me that was it. That was the name for these kind of projects. In conversation with Naoto, we came up with the idea of we discussed what is supernormal, what does it mean? We came up with the idea of trying to find out what it meant by making an exhibition. And the first exhibition was held in Tokyo about a year ago, I think now, and we showed it again in London. We will show it in Milan during the furniture fair in April at the Triennale. And supernormal is a collection of objects which have this characteristic of being normal, but somehow more than normal. And I think we learned slowly that in many ways supernormal objects.
Hello, I'm Giulio Cappellini, and why Jasper Morrison? Because I think that the concept of design of Jasper is really very, very clear, very pure and timeless. And I think that Jasper is doing a real industrial design and not doing just a style or fashionable project. The projects of Jasper Morrison are timeless and is what we need in this particular historical period. We need of timeless products, of products that speak about us. And why Lotus chair? Because I think that Lotus is the perfect synthesis between industrial production and the final human touch that is typical, this artisanal touch, is typical of the production made in Italy. So I really think that Jasper Morrison is the perfect interpreter of the DNA of Cappellini, a mix between industry and craftsmanship. And I really think that so Jasper is one of the most important testimonial for the Cappellini DNA.
Ho incontrato Jasper Morrison appunto 30 anni fa per la prima volta a Londra. Ero andato a visitare una mostra di design e sono rimasto colpito da uno dei suoi primissimi progetti, Thinking Man Chair, il prototipo di Thinking Man Chair. Ho cercato di entrare subito in contatto con lui, l'ho raggiunto nel suo studio e l'ho subito invitato a venire in Italia perché avrei voluto sviluppare dei progetti con lui. Dopo pochi giorni Jasper è venuto a visitare l'azienda Cappellini in Italia e mettendo a punto il primo prototipo di Thinking Man Chair è iniziata una storia straordinaria, una storia che dura appunto da 30 anni. 30 anni in cui abbiamo elaborato tanti progetti, 30 anni in cui abbiamo sperimentato molto, forme, materiali, 30 anni in cui sono stati creati dei progetti sicuramente di buon successo, anche perché Jasper ama lavorare su quelli che io chiamo i long sellers e non i best sellers. Penso che il vero design sia proprio quello che crea i long sellers e l'attenzione di Jasper Morrison al dettaglio è un elemento assolutamente fondamentale, un elemento che fa sì che le sue forme molto semplici siano sempre sofisticate e mai banali. Ecco, io penso che i prodotti di Jasper parlano da soli, non ci servono troppe parole per spiegare la qualità dei suoi progetti. Il suo atteggiamento, sempre di grande rigore, di grande semplicità, di grande curiosità, crea veramente dei prodotti che entrano immediatamente a far parte dell'immaginario collettivo ed entrano con grande facilità in situazioni ambientali sia residenziali sia del corpo. Ecco, questa è la grande qualità. Fare oggetti semplici e non banali è sicuramente la qualità principale dell'approccio al progetto di Jasper Morrison.
Ho notato una sedia senza cuscinatura in un negozio di antiquariato e mi è venuta l'idea di realizzare una seduta fatta solo di elementi strutturali. Dopo diversi schizzi sono arrivata a un'approssimazione della forma finale, con due piccoli vassoi terminali e un particolare assemblaggio di metallo curvato. Avrebbe dovuto chiamarsi The Drinking Man's Chair. Ritorno da un tabaccaio con un pacchetto di scovolini con cui realizzare il modellino, ho notato sulla confezione lo slogan The Thinking Man Smoke, che ho subito adottato come titolo più sofisticato. Poi, sul prototipo destinato a una mostra in Giappone, ho aggiunto le dimensioni come decorazione. Ziv Abram ha presentato la sedia a Londra nel suo showroom e Giulio Cappellini, vedendola, mi ha subito contattato per metterla in produzione. È così che ho iniziato con Cappellini. Giulio e Sheridan Cockley a Londra sono stati i primi a mostrare vero interesse per quello che stavo facendo.